everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be starting on a new project. I am going to be making a cutsew inspired by this Angelic Pretty cutsew blouse. This is the lovely heart turtleneck from Angelic Pretty. I saw it when I was browsing Library and I had the idea to try and make it with the materials that I already have in my stash. I decided to be a little bit more original and combine aspects from different colorways to create my own original version. I'm going to show you now before we start all of the materials that I'm going to be using. I'm going to try and not buy anything new from this stash unless I really can't find anything. So let's get right on into showing you all the materials I'm going to be using. Starting off, I have a ton of this dark wine colored knit fabric that I'm going to use for the base of the body. Alongside with that, all of the trim I'm going to be using is this random crochet lace. I think this was my grandmother's and she gave it to me, but I only have like a small amount of it, so it should be perfect for this project. I think the amount here is probably perfect for what I need for the project, just to go around the neck and the cuffs. I also have an invisible zipper, and luckily this one is in a color that matches pretty well. I also have a ton of different ribbons. I have some velvet ones here, and also some gross grain ribbons in two different colors. I was thinking I would do white just to have more of that lighter color come through and not have it be so matchy-matchy, but if I can't find any cream ribbon, then I'll go ahead and use one of these red ones. I also have this package of pre-made little gross grain ribbons. I thought I could use one of these for the one that's right at the neckline, but I think they're a little bit too small, so I'm probably gonna have to end up making one out of gross grain ribbon myself. And lastly, probably the most unique thing of the design is the heart applique piece right in the center, and I actually had some heart appliques already. I got these from Lace Heaven maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I've just been waiting to use them for a project, so I can use one of them today. And maybe if this project goes well, then I can use the second one and make a different colorway. These ones are in a more ivory color. I think they might be more white in the original version, but because of that I had to use a more ivory toned lace to match with them. Lastly, we have the pattern. I'm going to be using this vintage Simplicity one. I really like how it looks on me. Normally it's a bodysuit, but I have cropped it in the past to be a top. I made the pink top that I wore in my Everything I Made video out of this pattern. Normally there's a division line right above the chest so that there is a different contrast yoke, but I'm just going to combine the pattern pieces together to make it all one piece for this video. I probably also will alter the sleeve pattern on this to be a little bit more straight as opposed to gathered at the ends, just because that's how it is in the original cutsew. Okay, but with that intro out of the way, we can get right into the video. Starting off, as one does, we are cutting out the pattern pieces. I altered the pattern piece for the sleeve to be more narrow at the wrist since it normally has a pretty big poof at the end. Next, I cut out the fabric. The first piece I worked on was the collar. Adding the trim was pretty difficult since I didn't know how to best finish the edge of the lace so it wouldn't fray. I ended up just rolling it up and adding some stitches by hand, but I figured out a better way by the time I got to the cuffs, so you will see that later. Next, I sewed the shoulder seams and the side seams. I should have saved this step for later to make adding the back zipper go way easier, but I apparently don't like reading pattern directions, so I just went on instinct here. I also double layered the fabric on the front side so it will be less see-through. It's not really a lining, just something that I have done when working with knits to make them more wearable. Now we are moving on to the sleeves. First I hemmed the sleeves, then added the trim. So this time when adding the trim, I angled it downwards at the end so that the end will be caught in the side seams and keep it from fraying. After this, I then sewed the sleeve side seam together. Now for my applique, I feel really smart about this, but I wanted the applique to have a more opaque look instead of the see-through center where the mesh is, so it would match better with the original version. So I added a layer of regular cotton cut to the size of the mesh part of the applique and used fusible webbing to attach the two layers together. When I was ironing this, I ironed it with the cotton on top in a very low temperature setting to not melt the mesh of the applique. I think it looks absolutely so cute. I'm really happy with it. I then went ahead and pinned and sewed around the edge of the heart applique onto the center of the blouse. Adding the invisible zipper, I first ironed out the teeth on a low setting to make it easier to machine sew. I then went ahead and pinned it to the back. I had already sewed up the lower back until where I wanted the end of the zipper to be beforehand. I then was able to add the collar to the neckline. I only sewed down the outer layer since the lining is going to be whip stitched by hand to hide the inner seam. Here's what it looks like right now. It's pretty clean, and I probably will end up adding a loop and button to the back to close up the collar. Moving on to the shoulder ruffles, I hemmed one side and then did a gathering stitch on the other to pull it taut. When attaching them to the armhole, I pinned them so the ends are about 3 inches away from the side seam. There's probably markings on the original pattern, but this is to give you a guide if you wanted to alter any pattern you have to have these ruffles. I did some easing stitches on the top of my sleeve to make sure it would fit into the armhole, and then went ahead and sewed my sleeves to the rest of the bodice. Now that we have the basic structure completed, we can move on to the details. First, I made a small red ribbon and tacked it onto the neckline by hand. I also made 2 white ribbons and finished the edges of them by burning them with a lighter. This is my first time doing it and it was kind of scary, so know that fray check will also work. I just wanted to try this method out. These ribbons are going to go on the wrist, and I placed them about 3 or 4 inches away from the center of the seam line on the front of the sleeve. The last step will be finishing the hemline. You can do a normal hem, but I wanted to make something extra cute, so I decided to add another ruffle here as well. I cut a strip of fabric about 4 inches wide and twice the length of my Cutsew's hemline. I then sewed the 2 ends together into a big loop, hemmed one side, and gathered the other side down to the length of the Cutsew hemline. I sewed it on, and now the Cutsew is all done. So this is currently what the finished blouse looks like. I decided to wear it today for the first time, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. There are definitely 2 different things that I probably will change with this pattern if I make this again. One is that I did not anticipate the sleeves to be a little bit long on me, but I do have pretty short arms, so I definitely will adjust the pattern for that. Another thing, I really do like this bottom ruffle, but I think when I sewed it on, I maybe gathered down the upper level a little bit as well. So it's a little bit tight here and sometimes hard to put on, but otherwise I think it does fit really well, and I think it does add a really cute touch to the look, so I definitely would keep it in the future. I do technically have one thing left that I have to do, which is to add a button closure to the back of the turtleneck, but I also haven't done that on the other blouse that I made, so I'm just gonna, push it off for the time being. I think it looks fine, and it's completely wearable as is, so it's not like a super big necessity. Wearable, yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it's really cute, and yeah, I think this will look great. Obviously right now I'm wearing it more in a casual look, but I think it would look good under quite a few different JSKs that I have to have it be a more full Lolita ensemble. So that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. Please let me know if you enjoyed this type of video. I definitely have other items from Lolita brands that I would like to try and dupe, or alternatively just kind of use them as inspiration to design my own items. But either way, I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. I think it's really cute, and I'm really excited to have it in my wardrobe. But yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!